action. There you go, Mad Dog. 321 action, Mad Dog says today instead of 321 Q. Got it. It's like we're doing a movie here. The only thing different is that we're live and we're doing news and we're doing TV, cable, satellite, digital, everything. There it is, New York Stock Exchange, folks. The market is closed, 4 o'clock. This is what we always do. Now, see, guys, we can't use those. Those aren't updated right now. I have the Dow Jones up 82 points right now. I have NASDAQ up 284 points right now. I got the S&P up 35 points. A couple of the big stocks, though, and this is really what's important because everyone, again, not because I was on Wall Street, it's because everyone is somehow involved in the stock market. 70% of people have something in a 401k or pension fund loosely tied to the stock market. Tesla, the one everyone's looking at, down a little bit, down $1.64. Remember Tim Walz says, I want to see Tesla go lower at 225. It's 280, so it's a lot higher. Amazon, Apple doing okay. Netflix, Nvidia, all of them doing up a little bit today. Oil prices remain soft, $59 a barrel. Matters. Lower oil prices, lower inflation, period. And look at gold. Gold still holding $3,237 an ounce. Took a hit, $82 an ounce today. So what? It's still $3,200 an ounce. All right, by the way, breaking news today, National Security Advisor Mike Walls and Deputy National Security Advisor, his deputy, Alex Wong, are out over the Signal chat issue in which Walls was somehow, I'm guessing now, and we don't know the details, someone invited Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, into that chat with the national security officials where Yemen airstrikes were discussed. Pete Hegseth was talking about things there. Marco Rubio was talking about things there. President Trump just announced that Mike Walls will be taking over as the United States ambassador to the United Nations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be the interim national security advisor. We're going to delve into this later, but my guess is because they got rid of the deputy national security advisor, but kept Walls, made him ambassador. It was probably the deputy who leaked that to Jeffrey Goldberg, and they had to get rid of him. My also guess, I think Marco Rubio is going to handle both jobs for a while. If I were Trump and know these guys a long time, I'd let Marco Rubio be the NSA, the National Security Advisor. Bring in Witkoff for someone to do the Secretary of State thing. There are a lot of guys that can do Secretary of State. Rubio would be a good NSA because you got to know foreign policy. You got to know what we have, our assets here, and Homeland Security stuff. A lot of advising from the NSA. All right, short while ago, I spoke with Congressman Josh Burkeen about a letter he and Congressman Chip Roy sent to Chairman Jason Smith of the House Ways and Means Committee, imploring the need to repeal, the full repeal of the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember that? Trump came in and said, I'm going to get rid of the Inflation Reduction Act, and specifically the green energy BS subsidies. Take a look. Okay, joining me now, Representative Josh Burkeen from the great state of Oklahoma, 2nd District. Congressman, really good to have you on. There's a very, very important letter that you've written, you and Chip Roy, and you're sending it to Speaker Johnson to get this into, I guess, to get it to the president's desk. Tell the folks what the letter is involving and what you're looking for.
Yeah, so I want to say this is a 38-member letter. This is something that so many in our conference know in their heart of hearts is the right position, that we're the party that stands before people at a town hall. And when you're asked about energy production, we're able to say that we want the free market to determine that, not that which government props up through tax preferential treatment. And the Democrat ideology, what President Trump even said in September, because he understands this, he gets it. President Trump in September said in order to go after inflation, we are going to repeal the Green New Scale. And it's these 8 different tax characteristics of the IRA that through the reconciliation process, Democrats put into place. And what this group of 38 is saying, we don't want to lose the only opportunity we've got to repeal this $1 trillion over 10 years. $1 trillion. CBO scores it up to 825. Goldman Sachs is $1 trillion cost to the taxpayer. But the greater harm is what it's going to do in displacing the liquid gold and how much of our electric generation is being displaced by wind and solar. And we are handing over, for the battery solar components, we're handing over economic growth to China at our expense. And this is like tying a stone in your slingshot when we're trying to return to energy dominance. Let the free market decide, and let's make sure that energy dominance for our fossil fuel industry is giving consumers choice, not government's preferential treatment of who's cozy and who's lobbyist, had the last word with the member of Congress.
Very important, very, very important issue. Yeah, I come from an oil background, 12 years in the oil business. This is, and I'm a staunch conservative. I'm a MAGA staunch conservative, and the Inflation Reduction Act is proven to be the exact opposite. It caused more inflation because of things you're talking about, subsidizing industries that frankly aren't ready to be subsidized anyway, not ready for prime time, so to speak. Wind energy, solar energy, hydro energy, these things, they'll have their day, but not yet. In the meantime, we're wasting hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars on this. I'm very much in favor of this. I love everything you're doing. Here's a question. You have 38 signatories. What about the, 219, 181 other GOP Congress people? Why aren't they signing this too? Because this really is a left-right issue, isn't it?
Look, it is. Look, if you'll give me a moment here, there's something that coined the term emotional intelligence. In fact, a book was written about this years ago based upon what happened in Stanford University in 1965, where they took a group of 4-year-olds and 600 of them and said, if you eat the marshmallow, it's all you get. But if you'll wait 5 minutes and not give in to the instinct of the moment, instant gratification, we'll come back and we'll give you something better. 200 of those 4-year-olds in 1965 passed that test, didn't give in to the instant gratification of the treat of the moment. And then 20 years later, they came back and looked, and those students that were able to have the restraint were 200 points higher on their SAT scores. And they wrote a book about it called Emotional Intelligence. Mm-hmm. Don't trade the dream of tomorrow for the treat of the moment.
Or more importantly, don't think members of Congress are smarter than a 4-year-old. Because it's almost the same damn thing, Congressman. I'm telling you, I'm ticked that Donald Trump said we are going to repeal the Green New Scam. Remember that? The Inflation Reduction Act is chock full of Green New Scam handaway, give overs to solar Chinese solar companies.
China is benefiting.
Yes,
we're trading the dream of energy dominance. We're trading the dream of energy independence that we were led unto in under 45. And we're trying to be, follow his leadership and go back into 47 into this. And every one of these things, these preferential treatments are undermining it. It's the treats of lobbyists who will come into offices and say, hey, promise made, promise kept. You guys started this. We've kind of built a business model, see it through fruition. The problem is we also, another thing up here, no member can commit the next member of Congress to fulfill what the Democrat agenda was. That's why you have elections
Congressman,
every 2 years.
Tell me whom would push back on the right. I get every single lefty is going to push back on this. They just love solar. They love, these pipe dreams.
Marshmallow treat, Eric. It's the marshmallow treat.
Yeah, who is it? Every Oklahoma, every Texas, every Pennsylvania, every Louisiana, Arkansas, every Republican congressperson in those states should be signing your letter. Why are they not?
I look forward to your follow-up interviews and you preaching the message that this 38 is saying. We cannot lose the whole loaf for trying to be concerned about parochial interest of what you may have 1 or 2 industries that say, we really like this, keep it. And by the way, here's a campaign donation. That is marshmallow eating thinking. It's not emotional intelligence. We cannot trade the dream of energy dominance for the dream for the treats of this.
I'll tell you something else. One of the biggest problems with this whole idea of solar, hydro, and wind, it's not reliable. It's not on demand. If it's not windy, you don't produce electricity. If it's not sunny, you don't produce electricity. What really works, listen, you know what really works? You don't like fossil fuels? Let's start opening up some nuclear plants, and then you'll really be energy dominant around the globe.
Look, tax law should be just, not philanthropic. Is it not enough that tax law should be just? Why do we feel like and that is not a Republican position to do preferential treatment. The Republican position is we don't take from the many to give to the few. We don't do that. We let the free market determine scarce allocation of capital. And that way, then the consumer chooses that which is reliable, that which is going to be there, that which is the lowest cost for the long term. That's the solution.
Are some of these deals, are some of these things the reason why people aren't jumping all over this thing, you get the full caucus on your side? Because there are some negotiations going on with the budget that they're trying to get through, push through now, and the tax cuts?
Well, if we'll fully repeal, President Trump is all in favor of a full repeal of this. If we repeal this, it helps our balance sheets. It helps us implement all the things that we need to do for physical barriers. I'm on Homeland Security. Well, we passed out a committee to be able to do physical barriers, 700-mile physical barriers. There's $1 trillion over 10 years if we'll repeal these.
Say that again. Say that again. Say that again.
Benefit the leftist elite.
Say that again. Let's put a dollar amount. How much is earmarked?
$1 trillion of tax preferential treatment, tax credits, some of refundable tax credits. You don't have to owe a dime in taxes. And yet we pay you for production, not because you have a tax liability, because we send you a check in the mail because we like what you do, thus says government. That is taking from the many of us as Americans and giving to the few who are politically well-heeled, well-connected.
All right, well, Congressman Josh Brakeen, again, I'm all about it. I love what you're doing. You're an energy guy. You're from an energy state, but you're also Freedom Caucus, free markets, free. Get government the hell out of business. That's what we really, really do.
I had a business in the dirt moving business, and I've been on pads. I've been in the free market, and what people are frustrated by is the government injecting itself, whether it's regulatory, advancement that is needless. Or it's picking winners and losers in the tax code, and everybody wants to know, why can't there just be fairness even in the tax code?
I agree. All right, sir, we're going to bring you back and let us know how this proceeds. Representing Josh Brakeen from Oklahoma. Thank you. Appreciate your time and great work.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Mad Dog, you caught me. Caught me sipping the Red Bull. Had an early morning flight back from D.C., folks. All right, well, we almost made it through the whole week, one whole week, without any mind-numbing stupidity from, remember that lady Kamala Harris, former VP and failed presidential candidate, has had nothing but time on her hands since November, and this week she apparently decided to spend some of that free time on the internet. Here she is talking about elephants for some reason.
In fact, please allow me, friends, to digress for a moment. Okay. It's kind of dark in here, but I'm asking for a show of hands. Who saw that video from a couple of weeks ago? The one of the elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake? Google it if you've not seen it. So that scene has been on my mind. Everybody's asking me what you've been thinking about these days. Well,
you want some more Cammy word salad? Well, Lady Kamala did leave a minute during her very important remarks to take a few shots at the man who demolished her in the presidential race. This next clip may seem like more of the same from Kamala, typical disoriented rant with no clear point or purpose, but try and focus on that tone, Kamala seems angry about something. Listen.
but sadly, we have seen quite the opposite over these past few months. Now, I know tonight's event happens to coincide with the 100 days after the inauguration, and I'll leave it to others to give a full accounting of what has happened so far. But I will say this. Instead of an administration working to advance America's highest ideals, we are witnessing the wholesale abandonment of those ideals.
See what she does? She gets really mad and she shakes her head like this, like we're supposed to agree with her, right? More Kamala. Of course, Kamala made sure to give her verbal support to Senator Chris Van Hollen, you know, the idiot who's obsessed with deported gang members, bringing them back to the United States. She also had some nice things to say about Senator Cory Booker's recent work, another Democrat moron, who has been all over the headlines lately for his in-your-face antics and loud but pointless accusations. Kamala basically gave a round of applause to any leftist making destructive, divisive noise right now. Oh, here she is, shouting out the deranged leftist lunatics who followed her lead in dragging the Democrat Party right through the mud.
Including congressional leaders like Cory Booker, Chris Van Hollen, Chris Murphy, Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost, AOC, and Bernie Sanders.
As a who's who, right, folks? Who's who of losers, I'll say. We couldn't mention Kamala Harris without giving you one moment from this week that made me shake my head in disbelief, kind of embarrassment. Here is that very moment.
I'm glad that you're here at this gala. You know, like I was telling them, you can't have a gala without the gay and then the comedy.
Exactly.
You just
That's
can't.
right. Between us, we are the gala.
That was almost present. Wow. Tampon Timmy, meanwhile, Timmy Walls has been making some noise of his own lately. Is there anyone more unself-aware, if that's the way to put it, or has lacking self-awareness more than Tampon Tim? Is he the most unlikable kind of guy? Well, the failed VP pick and his former running mate appear to still be in sync. Whenever one of them acts stupid, the other one isn't very far behind. Here's Tampon Timmy Walls' weekly submission to the Clueless Democrat highlight reel.
To improve people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of those votes.
So let me get this straight, Tampon. You were picked as vice president because you could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck. When you said you were a hunter, you couldn't load your own shotgun. And by the way, it was your policy to put tampons in boys' bathrooms in the state of Minnesota. That's why you were picked to talk to those guys? They're out of their minds, folks. Can you believe that we're now in May? Today is May 1st. Isn't it May Day somewhere? Jamie Raskin is still lying about Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
He was arrested and swept up and flown out of the country to El Salvador as part of the government's dragnet campaign against Tren de Aragua. But he had no criminal record. There were no outstanding criminal charges against him. And he had no association with any criminal gang. And yet he was sent to the dictator of El Salvador because he has a tattoo on his right arm, which was mistakenly associated with Tren de Aragua.
What would it be of this Democrat roundup if we didn't put one of the biggest losers in Congress, Eric Swalwell, up for a little bit of observation?
The president deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer, stage 4 cancer, took him away from his American citizen father and his American cancer treatment. People just wanted cheap eggs. And now you're deporting kids with cancer. We are so far off course from where the American people wanted this administration to go.
Was this about the economy, eggs, deportations, or cancer? I have no idea. More cluelessness from the left comes in the form of, Jasmine Crockett, couldn't leave her out, who apparently had no idea that other countries have been sending their people to the United States, and she's a Texas congresswoman.
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights. And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country? Like that is absolutely insane. So yes, all I got to say is y'all need to get these fools out of here.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, that's about the biggest losers I've ever... Remember that show, The Biggest Loser? I'm not sure. I think all you... Kamala, Harris, Swalwell. We just need AOC in there. Hey, Mad Dog, do you have that soundbite? Do you have that clip ready to go? I have a show that's launching tonight on X. Elon Musk and a group, Mario Nafal on X, put together a group, and we're doing shows, and there's a show that's launching tonight. The first show, it's called On the Ground. We're going to go behind the scenes. We're going to get you into areas we've never seen before. The first episode is the launch episode of the show. Will be a literal NASA/SpaceX launch. Mad Dog, you got that clip?
Yes, sir.
Let's play it. Let's show them, give them a piece of that. Every story has a beginning for us. It begins right here in the middle of a pitch black starlit night just a few yards from a launch pad. Attached to it, a smoldering rocket awaiting its final countdown. All eyes lifted skyward as fire and thunder carry a crew towards the stars. This is the debut of On the Ground, a series built on presence, on proximity, on bearing witness to moments that shape our world. From war zones and natural disasters to scientific breakthroughs and space flight, we will bring you closer to the human pulse behind the headline. On the Ground, we go where the stakes are highest and the access is rare. I'm not even going to tell you guys what Mad Dog just said because I have no idea what that means. I have no clue what Mad Dog's talking about. All right, my next guest was a congresswoman from California, a Republican, by the way, who sees how communist China can be a big problem for the U.S. I'm happy to have former Representative Michelle Steele in the hot seat. Michelle, may I call you Michelle? Michelle, so I would call you a China expert. When you were in Congress, I believe 2 terms, if I'm not mistaken, your focus was on making sure China doesn't make too many inroads into the things that we hold dear, our intellectual property, maybe even our farmland, et cetera. Tell us what you see. Is China as big of a threat as someone like me may feel they are?
China is a much bigger threat. I was on congressional committee on China, and I was on bicameral commission on China. So I hear so many stuffs from there. You know what? China became number 2 in the whole world, the economy size. They're not, you know what? China didn't build it. They stole our intellectual property at the cost of our, workers in America. That's the way they grew. So this President Trump's tariff, actually, it's going to end our greatest job theft in the history. So that's going to work. And this President Trump.
Michelle, I'm sorry. I want to clarify. You like the tariff, kind of tariff war we've got going on with China?
Because you know what, it already impacted in Chinese economy. And as of now, that we actually imposed that tariff since April, about 16 million Chinese workers already lost a job. So they have to come to the table and they have to practice clean, fair trade. Mm-hmm. They stop bringing those precursor fentanyls, and they have to really stop stealing our intellectual properties.
Talk to us a little bit. We can talk about intellectual property. By the way, folks, we didn't realize that back in 2 or 3 decades ago, China would send ambassadors over here. We'd be welcoming. They'd walk through our plants, our manufacturing plants. And at one point, they realized that they were using rubber and sticky shoes to pick up our allies and some of our metals and stealing our technology, literally theft under their shoes. And they were bringing it back to China and then doing it cheaper than us and competing with us. This relationship with Putin and some of the other dictators around the world, China, Xi Jinping. Are you as concerned about it as I am?
Yes, I do. But you know what? Actually, it's their self-interest because they are getting a lot of gains. They're bringing oil from Russia and rare earth minerals, and they are actually doing partnership to mine for copper in Russia. So yes, I am. But at the same time, China is doing self-interest, and Russia is going to find out as of now that they cannot really work with our allies in the Pacific area. That's the reason that they are very close to Russia and North Korea and Iran, and they try to show and challenge our U.S. military power. Mm-hmm.
What about this idea of the South China Sea? I mean, there's some, a lot of countries we're pushing back on China building these military bases out in the South China Sea. I guess, against international law. Why is no one stopping them from doing this?
Well, actually, USD is, and we are working with all these drills, exercising drills together. And yes, we are working on it, that we really have to stop because China believes in one China policy. So they want to take over Taiwan by 2027. But at the same time, now that they're fighting all these islands to gain that their rare earth minerals and oil, natural gas, and then actually fishing rights and shipping routes that they want to control, because about 21% of all the merchandise go through that shipping routes in East Sea. I don't call that East China Sea. It is East Sea. And they've been fighting and trying to take over, and they try to actually want to see that East China one policy on the East Sea. So it's really interesting that they try to actually expand, not just going out to Russia and other countries, but they try to work with our allies. It was not really working.
Are they
just
going to
had
go?
a meeting last April with South Korea and Japan. It didn't work it out.
Michelle, are they going to take Taiwan? I mean, it would happen very quickly, but unless we ensure that they don't. And I'm against getting involved in foreign wars. I'm not suggesting we do it militarily or even financially. But the concern is not just Taiwan, not just China one policy, but is the Taiwanese chip makers. They produce something like 70 or 75% of the world's chips, and that's a big risk to us.
It is a big risk, but they are watching it very closely. President Trump's tariff and President Trump's the readiness to work with unwavering support for our allies, and President Trump's that the economic pressure to China. I think all these commitments together, I don't think they're gonna go after Taiwan. Taiwan is a sovereign country, and Taiwan we really have to stay, because when they take over Taiwan, where they're gonna stop? Because they're gonna go after South Korea, Japan, and other countries. Our defense line is gonna be changed, and it's not really right way to do it. And President Trump was working on it. That's why I call that President Trump's China doctrine for these three things that limit Chinese economic power, and then we stop China going after all these Indo-Pacific countries, and then his commitment to economic pressure and military readiness. And this is really helpful.
Michelle,
and I really like what President Trump is doing.
Are the Chinese people happy with Xi Jinping? I mean, he's a dictator for life, I guess, or a leader for life, self-appointed. Are they happy with the way? Because China's struggling. The economy's slowing down. They're having birth rate issues. There's a lot of issues in China. They're happy with this guy?
You know what? We never saw any protest until 2022, 2024, it's getting out there. So you know what? Chinese people are not trust Xi at this point, and especially after that tariff, their economy is really impacted. And I don't think these people when their propaganda that you're going to be okay, only 20% going to United States, but that 20% affects so much all these companies, they realize that, this is all wrong propaganda that she's been spreading in China.
Michelle Steele, I want to get you back because we need a good, China, Asia expert. And, I'm sorry you're not in Congress anymore, but if you're not, we'd like to get you back on. Appreciate your time, Michelle Steele. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, folks. Again, this new show's dropping tonight on the ground. You can go to my social media. I'll put it up there, all the links, and you'll just check it out. And we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. A lot more show. Bannon's coming up soon too. Mad Dog Hawaii. Mad Dog, can I get the sky cam for a second? So you busted me. We showed the sky cam. You saw my Red Bulls. My wife just texted me. She's like, what are you drinking Red Bull for? You're going to get her. Baby, I was up at 5 in the morning to get the flight to get back here. All right. I'm sorry. Let me get this straight. So Democrats The Democrat guy, trying to impeach president, this new guy, all of a sudden is bubbling up. This guy's trying to impeach Trump, left 170 animals, including beagles, to die in his now defunct pharmaceutical lab in New Jersey. Sounds about right for a Democrat, right? So here we go again, down the impeachment rabbit hole. Listen.
Of course, we should never take impeachment off the table. We should never take where we see law breaking. We should never take accountability off the table. And I don't think that we should be, promising anything.
No, AOC never meant impeachment of a Trump that she didn't love. Here we go again. Trump's a Nazi and a fascist totalitarian, wasn't working. Calls for violence against Tesla and Trump and right-wingers and MAGA wasn't working. Now I guess it's time to the old faithful. Let's impeach.
Some guy that I'd never heard of. John James, is he a congressman, this guy? He said, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to start the impeachment of Donald Trump. What the hell did I do? Here we go again.
They have learned nothing. And now this formerly unknown, now known, but soon to be unknown again, Congressman Sri Thanedar filed for impeachment of President Trump over the deportation of an MS-13 gangbanger who abused his wife, not once, not twice, but several times.
This is Congressman Sri Thanedar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact.
All right, hey, Ben, Mad Dog in the control room. Just re-rack that. Just give me the first 10 seconds of that guy. I thought it was like Jimmy Fallon from SNL doing a skit. Just give me the first 10 seconds of that, can you?
This is Congressman Sri Thanedar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous...
This guy, Sri Thanedar. Okay. All this over an illegal immigrant gangbanger. Yes, Garcia is a gang member confirmed many times over, even by courts. Yes, he abused his wife several times. And now we find out that more than once, there's more. And it's even worse than we thought it was. Turns out that his wife actually filed a second protective order in 2020 against the MS-13 guy that got deported, El Salvador guy. Says he made murder threats against her and that she was worried for her own life and the lives of her children. But sure, Democrats, keep on loving this guy the way you do. So before I come back to this ridiculous attempt at impeachment against Trump that no one should care about at all, it'll go nowhere. This whole thing is an exercise in typical Democrat bull S. We should almost always we always do find out that the Democrat kicking up the dirt at President Trump usually is the one who's got plenty of dirt of their own. And this dirt bag is one of them. It's some Anthony Fauci level disgusting crap. But first, who is this Sri Thanedar? Well, not that I want to give this guy too much airtime, but Sri Thanedar was born in India and eventually made his way to Michigan. A chemist and business owner, Sri served in the Michigan State House before he was elected in 2022 and somehow was reelected in November. He also tried to run for governor of Michigan in 2018 and was, as well we can see, smoked, unsuccessful. Well, Sri used to own a pharmaceutical company that got shut down, and this is absolutely sickening and truly pains me to even explain it to you what happened. Well, Democrats tend to lean to the disgusting side, and they need to be exposed for who they really are, no matter what. So when that pharma company of Sri was shut down, he walked away and left 170 dogs and monkeys to starve. And not just that, but he actively tried to prevent their rescue.
Year after year, they were confined to crates with no opportunity to leave. Sri Thanedar got rich running tests on dogs. His research company kept over 100 dogs, testing drugs and chemicals on them, never let out of their cages. When Sri's company went bankrupt, it abandoned the building, leaving the starving dogs trapped in their crates. A judge stopped it, but who could be so cruel? Tell Sri Thanedar.
Fortunately, it ends well, despite Sri Tanadar's every effort. The pups were rescued.
Today, we rescued 120 beagles from a lab in New Jersey that had gone out of business. And some friends of ours at an animal rights organization in New York City went and freed them.
Thankfully. But seriously, what's in the water over in Michigan? They elect squad member and terrorist lover Rashida Tlaib, and animal abusers are apparently okay with them too. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, but something's actually humanly, fundamentally wrong with you if you're voting in animal abusers to represent you and your children in Congress. But wait, there's more. Isn't there always? In addition to animal cruelty allegations, Sri Tanadar was sued by Avomine Holdings in 2016 for allegedly inflating the company's value in a sale, from which he made $20 million. He settled that case just 4 days before it was set to go to trial. But Democrats don't burden themselves with such pesky details, do they? Oh, and Sri has about $800,000 in campaign debt. Even more dirt. Sri wants victims of Trump derangement syndrome to donate to his Impeach Trump cause. This guy's just parroting the same sad lines. He's seen the stars of the Democrat Party going on and on and on about the leftist machine handouts, where each of the soldiers gets the same lines of propaganda they're meant to dish out.
First, they come for the immigrants. Then they come for the judges. Who will be next in this fascist frenzy? Will it be you or me, an immigrant in Congress?
Fascist frenzy. Got it. You think that's bad? This clown stands in front of a church and an image of MLK because this is the party of racial panderers, per usual.
Talk about the current issues. People are frustrated. People are angry. People are fearful about what's happening with the cuts in Washington, D.C.
You see, this is the party of snowflakes and cover-up artists. Whenever they try to rise up in their party, it means either one, they really need the attention they're not getting, or two, they've committed crimes and need to deflect, or sometimes both, really. Think failed presidential candidate and real nobody Cory Booker standing in an adult diaper and whining on the floor of Congress for 25 hours. Wow. A resounding award for the no one cares goes to sub-Timu Obama, who tried desperately to be seen and only ended up soiling himself in the name of standing up to President Trump over his love for violent gang members and their right to stay in America to terrorize citizens of this country. Now, in what I can only describe as an unfunny SNL skit, actually just as an SNL skit funny because most of them aren't funny anymore, we're now talking about a dog abuser and all-around trash human being imported from India and somehow elected to Congress. Who thinks this is a moment to shine and file articles of impeachment somehow? He will be forgotten. His sad little mission will go nowhere, but we won't forget the animals, those innocent dogs and monkeys he callously left to die, viciously left behind. They really do roll out the winners on the left over there, don't they? Yet another notch in the belt of the Democrat Party. What a joke. We'll be back 2.5 minutes. You know, they used to call Cleveland the mistake by the lake. But I'm telling you, it's a really fun city. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's in Cleveland. It's awesome. That place is really, really cool to see. All right, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's time for the Rumble chat to start liking me again because they don't like me for 52 minutes of the show. But the last 8 minutes they love because Steve Bannon is coming on. And I love it because I learned something. And I believe Mike Davis is with Steve this time. Bannon, good to have you. You know, yesterday or 2 nights ago I was with you and I told you I was going to the White House yesterday to talk to Caroline Leavitt, went to the briefing for the new media, influencers or whatever. I got a question in there, and here's what I asked, and I'm really telling you this because it kind of went everywhere afterwards. But take a listen.
Eric.
So Caroline, Madam Press Secretary,
you can call me Caroline.
Thank you, Caroline. Over the weekend, the White House Correspondents Association had their gala, they had their dinner, and Alex Thompson from now Axios, prior to that Politico, didn't really apologize, but came forward and said we, quote unquote, missed the story of Joe Biden's demise, his health demise, his cognitive demise during the 4 years. Jake Tapper has written the book since President Trump was elected that they missed the demise of Joe Biden as well. Fast forward to this lawsuit with CBS, right? So the media, legacy media, has not been held accountable. Will this lawsuit with CBS go to fruition? In other words, I would love to see it go to trial so that we can see, so they can be held accountable. Additionally, will the New York Times be enjoined into that lawsuit, because the New York Times has already stated that they agree with CBS. And Trump has said maybe we're going to sue the New York Times as well. And as a follow-up to all this, and it really does dovetail because it's not just left-leaning media, Fox News. Fox News put out a poll. I'm a statistician. The poll they put out was wildly biased against President Trump. Will Fox sue Fox? Will Trump sue Fox for their methodology in polling?
Two great questions. Let me hit the first one first. As for CBS and the White House Correspondents Association dinner, it was laughable. They gave an award to a journalist for talking about Biden's mental incompetence. He wrote a story about it years after the American people knew that story to be true. I recall being on President Trump's campaign and calling out Joe Biden's cognitive decline. And we were accused of manufacturing deepfakes. My predecessor accused us for manufacturing deepfakes from the White House podium when she knew and everybody in this White House knew the true status of Joe Biden's physical and mental fitness. As for the lawsuit against CBS, the president and his legal team fully intend to carry this lawsuit forward. The president put out a very strong statement in regard to that and fake news CBS this morning. And then as for the Fox News poll, President's right. These are fake polls. They overpoll Democrats. They underpoll President Trump's supporters. It's always been the case for media polls. They consistently underestimate President Trump's support amongst the public.
So what do you think? Will they continue the lawsuit with CBS to trial or thereabout? And why don't they enjoin the New York Times and honestly sue Fox? They was the most biased poll I've seen methodology wise.
First off, don't bury the lead. I am a statistician. Was that your quote? The head pirate. I am a statistician.
Well, I mean,
okay. I'm
should I have said economist? Okay. I mean, yeah, I do stats.
Sherry Redstone. Sherry Redstone is going to throw 60 Minutes under the bus so quick to cut a deal with President Trump, because Mike Davis, they need the FTC and the Justice Department both, I think, to sign off on the merger of, what is it, Skydance and CBS. And I don't think it's not only not going to trial, I think this thing's going to be settled before Memorial Day, brother. Because I think they got to get it off the table. There's no merger. I don't think they get the merger done while this lawsuit's out there.
Let me throw a little fox at you, Steve. And when I was at Fox, my office was right. It was on the 17th floor, and during the elections, midterms and presidential elections, the election desk, they called it, the election desk took over the conference room right outside my office. And they were all liberal. They were all lefties. They couldn't stand Trump in 2016. I walk in there every day and like, he's going to win. They're like, hey, there's no path. There's no. I do the math. I love math. It's all about. There's a path. He's gonna win, guys. They just played with their heads. But here we are now, 2025, and they're still playing around with undersampling Republicans and pro-Trump people for some stupid reason.
No, because they're never gonna. It's all narrative warfare. The polls are all narrative warfare. You know that. That's what we have Rasmus on here. I think does a really great job. John McLaughlin, the president, talked about this last night on the News Nation town hall. John McLaughlin's done an analysis of how they underreport Trump voters. I wouldn't worry about the polls, but I think I do think on the 60 Minutes, I agree with you in theory, and President Trump will take it all the way. In practice, I believe this is going to get cleaned up, Eric, in a very short time to make sure that merger can go through.
Very quickly, you mentioned the Cuomo, the town hall list that you were on. It was a great town hall. You guys are terrific. I texted Cuomo like, what do you mean? What do you mean, Steve? You've affectionately called Steve Bannon the MAGA animal spirit. That gave him that line. He stole it. He told me he owes me a vodka. You and I, Steve, you and I were talking the other night, and you said, Mike Walls. I'm gonna out you. You nailed this. Okay. You said Walls is probably getting removed at some point, and I said, what's going to happen? And you said, maybe Rubio will take over dual responsibility. You nailed it. Here's my issue. Mark Halperin comes out today and reports it. What did he call you first, and you let him break the story? Wow, you got good info.
No, I had nothing to do. I was just thinking. I was just spitballing with you. I was just thinking out loud.
Oh, you're just lucky. just
pure luck.
Hey.
But I do want to say, hang on. Don't go anywhere. Hang on. I did get some reports because the war room's dialed in everywhere. I did get some reports from the briefing room yesterday about you, sir. And what did I get? And I thought that we had worked this through. I thought the Rumble chat had worked this through with you. You're sitting in the briefing room and you're bitching and moaning about the tariffs. We need zero tariffs. Why are we doing this? I heard my phone was blowing up.
Wait a minute.
They said, what's the story with Bolling?
Time out. This matters. Who told you that? Oh, I know. I got it. I know who told you.
I'm not saying. I
know exactly. He's probably coming up on your show later. I'm guessing.
Maybe coming up on the show later.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe.
Listen, Ben,
next.
You're amazing. Again, I learned. I should have. I don't know. Everything we talked about on Tuesday night is somehow happened. It's wild. It's awesome. Anyway.
But hold it, Eric. Before you go, what do you think of the move of Waltz to United Nations, particularly to Rubio? The first time since Henry Kissinger that this has happened.
Yeah, I think for me and you and I both know these guys, all these guys very well. If I were Trump, I'd be like, let Rubio take over the NSA and bring Witkoff in and let him be the Secretary of State. Why not?
Whoa. Now, okay. I got it. I like that. I'm going to duly note that one.
Well, so I just have to judge your response to see if I'm right or not, because if you go, that sounds like a good idea, it's going to happen.
Very interesting. Very intriguing. We'll get back to you on that one. Eric Bolling, thank you so much. Love doing the handover every day.
Me too.